this is your captain speaking. Welcome back to Mother Invasion from the Unknown. Be the last stream until I think next Friday. Alright. Ooh, I should load those up so I don't have to squint to read them. Give me one moment. This short but famous comedy from across the pond was inspired by events a popular comedy troupe encountered during a hotel stay. While the antics of the hotel's manager drove four members to search for a different inn, the last member was fascinated by the owner's rudeness that they used it as the show's inspiration. And let me load the answer in the background so I can read it later. Okay. Let me go check something quickly. Okay. So let's see. Okay, there we go. Hopefully the game volume isn't too loud. Maybe I will turn it down just a little. No, I think I'm good. Loud on my end, though. It's loud on my end. Alright, let's get to... So, let's see. This is where we left off, is in Magicant. So, where should we go? Head to the castle, head for a nearby house, or leave Magicant? I wonder if I should back up just a bit. Will history show me anything? Yeah, they need to fix that, but it is, like, very unfinished double build. I'm hoping that means I can actually complete it. I think I can. But it's, as you saw, with the rough around the edges yet. Let's head to a nearby house. In the middle of a field, a bit of a distance from the rest of town, and yes, it was a pink field, there was a house that was all by itself, and yes, of course, it was shaped like a snail shell. We walked into the house and found ourselves in a narrow room. There was a desk carved out of stone, and sitting on the other side of it was a man who appeared to be deep in thought. The man hummed as he crossed his arms. He didn't seem to notice us. I'm not sure. Excuse me? You look very serious. What's bothering you? It's this. I'm not sure what voice I was going for. He held out a slip of paper to show me. I took it and looked at it. There was something written on it, but I couldn't read it. It must have been written in whatever language they use here in Magicant. Then he began to sing. Laura's tears are the song of her heart. The piano's whispers ring out through the dark. Oh, I can't remember the rest. Mister, please sing the rest of the song. I can't. It's completely gone now. But if all of you come back here when you're stronger, maybe I'll be able to sing the rest then. There wasn't much else we could do for him, so we headed back outside. I tried with that voice. Well, head for the castle. We headed for the large snail-shelled castle in the middle of town. There was a man standing in front of the castle gate, holding a spear. As soon as the man noticed us, he thrust the spear into the ground and said, "If you wish to pass, you must answer my riddle." Should we bother with this? Yes, let's attempt a riddle. The man loudly cleared his throat before he spoke. What turns red when angry and turns blue when it smiles? I had honestly no idea. None of us had any clue what the answer might be. Reluctantly, we admitted this. The castle guard stared back with a blank expression. Honestly, I don't know either. Wow, I took damage from that? It's like emotional damage. I kind of want to force my way in, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a game over if I tried. This is getting ridiculous. What are we going to do? Or what are we doing? Are you making fun of us, old man? I have no interest in making fun of children. It's too easy. As soon as the castle guard said this, I slammed into him as hard as I could, knocking him flat, and then the three of us ran past. The man got to his feet and dashed ahead to cut us off, and he held his hands out in front of him. Wait! If you want to get through here, you'll have to beat me first. Wham! The three of us easily knocked him down a second time. Using his body as a springboard, we slipped through the gate and entered the castle. Oh, we're in the castle now. What do we do? I feel like this is going to end badly for us. Let's go visit the queen. Yeah, that sounds about right. When we arrived in the queen's chambers, we were greeted by a crowd of soldiers. Welcome, Doug, Anna, and Lloyd. From beyond these soldiers, there came a clear feminine voice. We looked toward it, and at the end of a large pink carpet, there was a woman sitting in a pink throne, her long silver blonde hair cascading down around her waist. She was wearing a white dress that looked incredibly soft and seemed made of silk, and her eyes were tranquil as a very still, very deep lake. I am Queen Mary. I am the ruler of this land of Magicant. We approached the queen with our heads bowed deeply. As Mary lifted her pale white hand and gently caressed the top of my head, I looked up with a start. What was that just now? For some weird reason, I felt as if it was my mama who had been standing there before me. For a moment. But I knew that my mama was back in our home in Pedunk, waiting for me to come back as soon as I could. I was the one who called you here. I am a very sorrowful woman who has lost her memory. And you three are the only ones who can help me regain it. But how? The queen shook her head and looked back at her sadly. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure myself. All I know for certain is that you three have a very close connection with me. And that is also why I was able to call you all here. For a while, we were For a while, we were made comfortable. There was... Okay, for a while we were made comfortable there in the Queen's chamber, and then eventually headed back out again. Okay, we've been restored. We stepped into the hallway, and Anna suddenly turned to me. Hey, Doug, that Queen Mary lady. She looked a lot like you, don't you think? I was thinking she looked a lot like you, Anna, and Lloyd, too. We walked through the castle's enormous passageways, and we found 2 doors marked for our esteemed guests. One of the doors was red, and the other was blue. If I go through the blue door, will I see mutant turtles that aren't mutants, but actually aliens? Blue door. Opened the blue door and found myself in a large empty room with a table right in the middle. Oh wow, that sounds dark. Wait, no, okay, I should actually read this out loud. On the table there was something that looked like a gun, but it wasn't a revolver or an automatic pistol. This seemed like the kind of gun that fired laser beams. I took the laser gun and left the room. Opened the red door, and beyond it there was a room with a table right in the middle. On top of the table there was a small compass. I took the compass and left the room. Leave castle. After exploring here and there for a while, we decided to leave the Queen's castle. Let's leave Magicant, because I'm sure if I go to the nearby house, it'll be debarred again. And I'll probably forget how to use his voice. We left the town and found ourselves once again surrounded by pink forests, meadows, and streams. As we looked around at those deep-sea fish swimming through the air and all the other bizarre creatures of this world, I started to feel a little lost. Oh, that's right. I had a compass I found back in the castle. I pulled it out of my backpack, and using that, I could see we had been heading east. We decided to continue in that direction. After a while, we could see a huge, wide-open space ahead. Strangely enough, we found that the ground here was full of countless holes. And in each hole there were stone steps leading deep underground. Cautiously, we made our way down one of these sets of stone steps. We found ourselves in a long passageway carved out of stone. Alright, quick save. The passageway branched off ahead. Oh wow, is this one of those dungeons I've heard so much about? Keeping an eye on the compass, we continued onward, warily. Let's head east. We continued down the passageway and up ahead through the darkness we could see that the path suddenly turned to the north. We kept following the path, eventually we came to a crossroads. It was too dark to make out what was down each branch, but I knew heading south would bring us back to the way we came. Head north. We continued north, according to the compass. The path quickly turned to the west, and, it was a dead end. Oh well. We returned to the crossroads and chose another path. Well, at least they made that easy. Let's go east again. We continued straight, and suddenly the path turned to the left. After that, it felt as though we were walking north for quite some time. Then, we suddenly came to a branch in the path heading east. Let's keep heading east. We took the path heading east and shortly turned to the south, then became a dead end. I sighed defeatedly, feeling Anna's icy gaze on me the entire time. I led us back to where the path branched off, and we continued heading north. We continued heading north, and I could see there was a path already ahead, branching off to the east. The path ahead suddenly turned west, and then quickly after that, it turned north again. Oh, what's this? Is this another dead end? Is it? Isn't it? And so, without much of a choice, we turned around and headed back to where the path had split off. And this time we headed down the passage leading east. Didn't I take the east path before? Yeah, we should just go straight. I'm not sure why, but I felt confident. And so we followed the compass needle pointing north. And soon the path turned left and then left again. And then we hit a dead end. We had no choice but to turn around to take the branching path we passed before. We headed east. Shortly after that, the path turned north and we continued walking along the passageway for what felt like forever. We have to be near an exit. I can smell the air getting fresher. And so we were. We reached the end of the passage and we turned east. And suddenly our eyes were blinded by the light of the world above. Let's go, quickly. I can't fair remember what kind of voice I did for Lloyd. Lloyd had been silent until now. Maybe he was the claustrophobic type, but I was happy too. We're finally getting out of here. Okay, but just as we were about to leave the cave, with Lloyd out in front and Anna behind me, we were suddenly struck by a wild gust of wind. At first I thought it was just a wind blowing into the cave from the outside, but I was wrong. It's one of the enemies, I think. This gust of wind came from the depths of the cave, or in other words, from behind us, and it lifted us into the air with a terrifying amount of force. Doug! Before I could respond, my body was whirled through the air like a leaf on the wind. What was that line from Firefly? Whatever, we'll just focus on the game. Like a leaf in the wind, and we were whisked away at a terrible speed. When I came to my senses, all I could see was darkness. Huh? I suddenly realized this place looked familiar. We're probably back at the beginning. We're back at the dungeon's entrance. Again. Lloyd gave me a miserable sigh. I can't stand being in these cramped passageways any longer. But we had no choice but to give this dungeon one more try. If we couldn't find our way out of here, we'd be trapped in Magicant forever. And so, just like the first time we were here, there were two paths ahead. Let's go west this time. We headed west, and suddenly the path up ahead turned right. I mean north. We continued to follow the path until we came to another fork in the road and a new path leading east. Let's go north this time. We continued along the path heading north until it curved and began heading east. We continued east for a short while until we hit a wall. It was a T-shaped intersection. The path split two ways, north and south. North. We headed down the north path, and after a while it turned east. And there we found a dead end. But the dead end wasn't the problem. We happened to notice something far more terrifying than that. Backed against the stone wall wall, fast asleep, was a huge golden beast. Countless spikes stuck out of at odd angles from its head. It had a massive maw, and I could see sharp fangs peeking out from under its lips. It, I see a grammar error. Its body was covered in large golden scales. There could be no doubt that this was a monster of myth and legend. A dragon. Trying not to wake the sleepy dragon, we crept on tiptoes back to the T-shaped intersection. Cautiously, we took the path to the left this time. There could be even scarier monsters out there. Like a Groucho! I'm actually disappointed they didn't manage to slip an encounter in here yet for a Groucho. That'd be awesome. We headed east. Shortly after that, the path turned north, and we continued walking along the passageway for what felt like forever. We're probably going to have to take the dragon on at some point. At least I assume we're going to have to. I said this last time. I have to be near an exit. I can smell the air getting fresher. Is this going to be the same end result? I already read this. Ah, fudge. Okay, I almost feel like I should be writing this out. Let's go west again. Let's take the path to the east. We turned onto the path heading east, and the passageway became even tighter. Suddenly, up ahead, we noticed another path leading south. This is why I hate dungeons. Continue heading east. We continued heading east, and before long, the path had turned sharply north. And there we came to another dead end. I sighed in frustration, but just as I did, I noticed something shining on the ground near our feet. What is that? With all the natural curiosity of a little mini-scientist such as himself, he picked up the thing up. It was a fish hook, and it appeared made of onyx. Got the onyx hook. We found the onyx hook that the old man told us about. We turned south, and the narrow passageway went on. As the passageway ended, it curved to the east, and we found ourselves at a dead end. See, didn't I tell you this was a bad idea? She was clearly very frustrated. We continued along the path heading north until it curved. Okay. Oh! Back. Okay. Oh, I know! Like the old man said, in order to travel between Magicant and our world, we need the onyx hook. He took it out of his bag and held it to the light streaming from the outside. And as soon as he did, Lloyd was engulfed in a rainbow of colored light. Shortly after that, that little body of his was no longer anything that resembled a human being. He'd been changed into something else entirely. I was stunned. And I have to assume Anna was too. Lloyd was transformed into a furry, bulky dog. A St. Bernard. Lloyd, you have to change back, or can you even do that? But Lloyd, or should I say, the St. Bernard, only whimpered sadly and shook his head. You have got to be kidding me. Anna sounded as if she were on the verge of tears. I don't know. I don't know. I think it'd be kind of funny if I would have maybe freaked out for a moment. Probably be funny after a while, though. If one of my uh, teammates just randomly turned into a dog. Of course, we've also been wandering this cave for a while, so we're probably at our wits' end. I'm getting Hitchhiker's Guides to the Galaxy vibe. The novel and the TV show, I believe, where Ford gets turned into a penguin. Is this some kind of joke? It's not a joke, Anna. The Onyx Hook did this. Apparently, when exposed to the light of the world above, it turns the person holding it into a dog. Maybe that's a requirement for passing between the two worlds. And just as I said that, the scenery outside of the cave looked a whole lot clearer to us. It was a desert, a town with a view of the sea, a small village nestled among the mountains, and Mount Atoy. There was a world beyond the cave, right before our eyes. The 4 places we still need to visit were laid out like images on a split screen. I suppose we could just jump into whichever location we wanted and be teleported there instantly. I like the art. He's got glasses, too. Is that the hook around his neck? We probably wouldn't find a way to turn Lloyd back into human by staying around here. So, let's head out into the big, wide world. The desert, I think, is in the game, is the next one you go to. So, head for the desert. Before long, an unusual sight appeared before our eyes. It was a desert. As you probably know, deserts are places where bright yellow sand stretches on endlessly into the distance. There are no plants or trees, and even if you search for 1,000 miles in every direction, it's unlikely you'll ever find a trace of water. It was the Yucca Desert. Just need to watch out for the beasts of Yucca Flats. I have no idea who gave it that name, but the sudden appearance of this desert, spreading from Maine up to the border and far north into Canada, had been reported in a small local newspaper called the Podunk Express. This was just another one of the strange incidents that had been occurring all over the world lately. When we first encountered this desert, it was the middle of the night, which was wonderful, but after the sun came up, it was a different story. The brutal and merciless heat easily hit 100 degrees and higher. The desert during the day is truly hell on earth. But at least, as Lawrence Arabia once said, the desert is clean. Would these kids actually watch Lawrence of Arabia? Doesn't seem like a movie kids would watch. I think I've seen part of it, but that was just part of a history class. What's that supposed to mean? Could she read my thoughts? Cat, you're being a little pest. Before I could think about it too much, she spoke again. Look at Lloyd. I feel so bad for him. I couldn't help feel bad for him, too. Lloyd, who is now bulky St. Bernard panted loudly with his tongue dangling miserably from his mouth. All that thick fur couldn't be comfortable in this heat. We left 2 sets of footprints behind us in the sand. Along them, a single set of paw prints. We walked, and still we found nothing. Just a sea of sand. And more sand. I hate sand. It's dry and coarse and it gets everywhere. Looming up ahead of us in the distance was something that was either a mirage or a distant city in some part of Canada. We wandered through the desert for what felt like at least 2 hours. Suddenly we noticed a tiny oasis up ahead. There was a spring surrounded by palm trees, and off to the side there was a yellow tent. Near the tent was an old-fashioned airplane, which looked like it had been built a long time ago, and a rusty tank, which was listing slightly to one side and half buried in the sand. We approached the tent and peeked inside, and we could see a bearded man lying comfortably in a hammock and reading an issue of Penthouse magazine. When the man noticed us, he suddenly sat up and then, pinching part of his sweat-stained t-shirt between his fingers, got to his feet. "Oh, have you come to enjoy a ride in my plane?" His eyes lit up behind his Ray-Ban sunglasses. "Tickets cost $10 apiece, same price for adults and children. So, for the 2 of you, it'd be but $20. "And what's the price for a dog?" The man looked surprised at Anna's question. "You plan on bringing the dog with you up with us?" "Well, I guess that'd be alright. No charge for dogs." What should we do? Board the plane. I told the man we'd like to go for a ride, and he smiled wide and nodded. He stepped out of the tent and pointed at the large plane. "Well then, little boy, little girl, little pop, hop aboard the Dakota. We have 4 flight courses to choose from, of course. Course A through D. Choose whichever one you like." Dakota? Like a DC-3 Dakota, or Douglas Dakota? The kind the Allies used for transport during World War II? "Whoa, kid, you surely know your stuff." We climbed aboard the Dakota, and the man showed us our cabin, which was just a cargo hold furnished with seats that looked like they had been thrown together at the last minute. They were terribly uncomfortable and didn't even have safety belts. And then, boy and boy's crew, roar off. The man in his sunglasses disappeared in the cockpit. The plane dashed across the desert, and I felt myself pushed into my seat as we finally took off. Cat's being a nuisance right now, by the way. Which flight? Take A. Even from so high above, the desert was massive. Looked like a yellow sea. The plane seemed to be flying in absolutely random directions, so I couldn't tell which way we were going. But looking down from the plane's window, I could see little ponds scattered across here and there through the desert. The plane headed in a straight line for some time, and before too long I noticed a truck half buried in the sand out in the distance. It looked like it might have belonged to a TV station's news crew. "Look at that awful quicksand out there." She pointed out across the desert. And then I saw the truck. That truck wasn't the only thing buried out there. There was a four-wheel drive Land Cruiser, a Jeep, and some sort of sedan. Some of these vehicles are almost completely buried by sand. Oh, what happened to all the people? The people who have been driving those vehicles. The Dakota touched down in desert sand, and we all got off and headed into the tent. We paid the man the total fare for Anna and myself, $20. I have enough for 2 more trips. Thank you if you ever want... what voice was I doing? Thank you. If you ever want take another flight, come visit me again. The engine wasn't working too well today, but maybe I'll have it fixed up by the time you come back. We can even take an even longer tour. And with that, the man handed me 2 tickets. Yucca Desert Flight Tour Company receipt $10 was scrolled across each in messy handwriting. Oh, and by the way, we noticed the tank out front? As I said that, the man looked at me with an amused grin on his face. Oh, you saw that, did you, kid? That's an old army tank. An M4 Sherman, to be exact. If you collect 5 ticket stubs, so I think we got 2. Like the ones I just handed you, I'll lend it to you for free. Well, come again sometime. He laid back down in his hammock and waved goodbye as we set out into the desert. The sun beat steadily down on us from above. It was really, really hot. The sea of sand continued on for what seemed like forever. The 3 of us were panting hard as we walked along. The wind constantly kicked sand and dust up in the air, so I kept my inhaler ready at all times. This place was no good for either body or spirit. Doug? I felt sudden dread. I was in no mood to be griped at. What was that just now? When have I ever griped at you? Whoops. That's right, telepathy. There's nothing I can keep hidden from this girl. But then, a mound of sand ahead of us suddenly stood straight up as if it had come to life, and with a powerful blast it shot into the air above us. Titany? Yep! Wow, I called that. And there, standing in the cloud of thick, swirling sand and dust, was some sort of monster. A monster that had 2 massive claws and looked a bit like a scorpion. Oh, I read about these in the newspaper. It's a creature called a Titany. Be careful, these things are tough. The Titany is eyeing us up. Fight. No, get out of the way! She pushed me to the side and stood before the creature. Anna's hands began to glow, and the glowing light burst from her fingers and slammed into Titany. The monster's shriek shook the desert sands. It was suddenly surrounded by a thick, white fog, and it breathed pitifully on the ground. Its steely body was coated in a layer of frost, and gradually its movements became very slow. It was a very powerful blast of PK Freeze, a technique which uses spiritual energy to freeze the opponent instantly. You lost 10 psychic points. You now have 20. You gained 18 points of experience. As usual, it seemed as though the dark energy controlling the monster was fading away. The giant Titany began to shrink before our eyes until it was the size of a regular scorpion. Then it quickly burrowed itself into the sand. We found the desert narrowing as the horizon gave way to forest, sea, and mountains on 3 sides of us. Let's return to the desert. Before long... Gonna board the plane. Skip. Let's take course B. The first thing I spotted down below was a sea of sand, and all the many bones there were half buried in it. I wasn't sure what kind of animal the bones had come from, but it looked as though God himself had scattered those white bones in a very intentional pattern against the yellow sand. Before too long, the plane flew over a stream that zigzagged across the desert, and beyond it I could see several holes that looked like they might be craters. What the heck are those? I thought, and leaned in to try to see them better. Just as I did, the plane flew right through a hazy sandstorm. Yep, seems like we've lost visibility. Guess we'll have to turn around. I was hoping that we'd get a fly around a little longer, but I guess not. Quick save. Skip. Skip. Oh, reached level 4. Board the plane. I only have enough for one more of these, so... See. We looked out the plane window and down to the earth below. No matter where we went, it was either sand or more sand. But before long, I noticed a pond in the distance, and just beyond that, there was a gentle hill with a cluster of dead, bare trees on top of it. Or at the top. Doug, look, beyond that hill. Anna pointed at something through the window. I looked, and against a hazy, foggy horizon, I saw what looked like the ruins of a very old town. The buildings were dark red and brown and seemed to be made of brick. And they were all tilted dangerously, as if they might fall over at any minute. I wanted to get a closer and have a better look, but apparently our sightseeing flight course was already over. Oh, by the way, we noticed a tank out front. Rent the tank? Well, if you mean these tickets here, then I already have 5 of them. The man looked surprised as he put a cigarette to his lips. Oh, is that so? Well then, let's get you into that tank. It's an M4 Sherman, a very popular model during World War II. Second World War. You mean like the Shermans that got completely obliterated by Germany's Tiger tanks? And as soon as I did, the man's mood seemed to turn sour. Well, I wonder why. Do you want to rent the tank or not? I'm just kidding. Nah, of course, it would be amazing to ride in a Sherman. You idiot. The tank was very rusty, probably from being left in the elements for so long. But the man climbed into it and got the engine running in just one try. It's a miracle, I thought. Well, kid, you know how to drive it, right? Of course! For someone like me who had deep interest in all things mechanical, a vehicle like this was very easy to figure out. Anna and Lloyd de St. Bernard climbed aboard, and we headed out with me at the wheel. The man watched us from beside the tent, looking somewhat worried. I mean, he just lent a bunch of kids a tank. Of course, you're going to be worried. And technically, Lloyd would be the one who'd be more interested in the tank, honestly. But he's currently a dog. So... Then again, if a Shiba Inu can be a mastermind of a horror game, I don't see how a St. Bernard can't operate a tank. Okay, let's head north. A cloud of sandy dust trailed behind us as I drove the Sherman along, heading north. Soon enough, we spotted a bunch of small ponds ahead. They were the kind of pond with dark, murky water that tended to smell pretty bad. Bubbles filled with some sort of gas gurgled to the surface in its deepest points. I navigated us around and between the ponds, and after a while, a truck, half buried in the sand, oh no, came into view on the horizon. Continue straight. We continued onwards until we got to the truck that was buried, and we climbed out to the tank. It was a reddish-brown Chevrolet, about 2/3 of the truck's front end, or in other words, most of the truck's cab was buried in the sand. Oh, this sounds fun. Beyond the truck, we could see countless other vehicles and motorcycles sinking gradually into the vast sandy sea, and there were also bones! What's this? Sticking out of the car's windows or out of the sand itself were skulls and rib bones. A flock of crows was perched nearby, and the birds were eyeing us suspiciously. Get back into the tank! This is quicksand! But our heavy Sherman had already begun to sink. Climb back in. Come on, guys, back into the tank. We can't, we'll just get dragged down with it. Don't argue with me, just get in the tank. I shoved Anna and Lloyd into the Sherman and started the engine. Thanks to the tank's special wheels, known as caterpillar treads, I managed to pull us back out of the quicksand. Gained a experience. Anna frowned deeply and puffed out her cheeks in annoyance. If we had abandoned the tank and went out into the desert on foot, all three of us would be mummified in a matter of hours. Anna still refused to look at me. I steered the tank around and set out to the northeast. After a while, right in the middle of the open desert, we spotted one lone cactus. Oh, okay, here we go. Growing straight out of the sand. It was only a cactus standing there all alone in the blazing desert sun. So why was it that we felt in our hearts being drawn to it? We climbed out of the tank and walked over to the cactus. And we were very surprised to find that there was a face on its trunk. So you are the three warriors I've been waiting so long to meet. The cactus spoke to us through telepathy, looked at us and smiled. This song was entrusted to me by your great-grandfather. And then the cactus began to sing. And I knew for sure that this was one of the melodies we were looking for. Thank you, Mr. Cactus. The cactus broke into a wide grin. You're very welcome. Take care. Head south or head west? That was quite something. Where to now? After a while, we found ourselves and our tank in the middle of an odd and sprawling landscape. Okay, I think we're heading the right way now. There were countless buildings, and all made of crumbling stone. I'm gonna quick save. At first, it looked like a castle because it was surrounded by such a large wall. But they were actually just buildings that had been left to the elements for so long they had been turned into nothing but desolate ruins. I have a bad feeling about this. She could say that again. This place was giving me the creeps. We decided to head somewhere else, but as we were turning around to leave, we heard something from inside one of the buildings. We should probably check that out. I brought the tank in closer to the ruins, and suddenly a section of the wall fell away with a loud clatter. And there, standing in the middle of the cloud of dispersed dust and sand, was some sort of giant shadow. It's a big red robot. Okay, not red robot. It's a big robot. I think the red robots when you're in Mount a Toy. It had a cylinder body with long arms and legs and a small round head. It was a robot. The robot is giant. What should we do? Try to fight. The robot began walking toward us quickly. The shockwaves sent through the ground by each of its footfalls could be felt through the tank, even through the tank. This guy must have been heavy. What should we do, Doug? Anna looked at me with fear in her eyes and voice shaking a bit. I think that's pretty obvious. I pulled a giant shell from the tank's store of ammunition and plucked it down in front of the main gun. We attacked that robot with this tank. Help me with this, Anna. You're crazy. Despite her incredulity, she dutifully lifted the shell and placed it into the gun's chamber. The 75mm rounds were loaded and ready to fire. I peered into the sights of the tank's main gun and set my aim on the approaching robot. Fire! The round tore through the air trailing white smoke behind it, and it slammed right into the robot. There was an explosion, and the smoke and flames made it impossible to see anything. Oh, of course. But when it all cleared away, the robot was still standing. It's no good. We can't take it down. The robot began making its way towards us again, but its movement had become slower and clumsier, possibly because of the shot we just landed. Anna, load another round. She loaded a high explosive shell into the main gun, and I peered through the sights. I could see the robot getting closer, as every one of its footfalls sent shockwaves through the ground. Fire! There was a dull sound of a powerful blast, and the tank was rocked by the recoil. The shell flew straight for the robot, trailing white smoke as it went. But my aim was off. The explosion went off somewhere far beyond the robot, sending up a violent cloud of flames and sand. No good. Load the next round. Anna frantically pulled out another shell, but the robot was had already reached for us and pulled back one of its long, massive arms and punched the side of the tank. The impact was incredible. The three of us slammed into the wall near the cockpit. We were in trouble. I frantically got to my feet and ran over to the tank's ammunition storage. I came back with a massive, high explosive round and loaded it into the main gun. The robot was getting ready to launch a second punch. Alright, here we go. Fire! The tank was rocked by a powerful blast and by recoil, and the round thundered towards its target, trailing white smoke. It was a direct hit. There was a deafening explosion, and we watched as the top half of the robot's metallic body was torn to pieces. You gained 12 points of experience. But the very next moment, the robot's lower half began to topple over, as sparks and flames poured out of it. This massive hunk of metal, which probably weighed several hundred tons, headed straight for the tank. We abandoned the Sherman as quickly as we could. There was a massive crashing sound. We managed to escape by a hair's breadth, but half the tank had been completely crushed by the weight of the fallen robot. Anna turned to the wreckage and spoke, her voice sounding worried. Well, that's the end of the tank, I guess. There wasn't much we could do. When we see that man again, we'll just have to apologize. We began to walk towards the ruins we had seen. We entered one of the buildings, and inside, it was a bit of a maze. We had to keep some chattering monkeys at bay as we continued on through the corridors that gradually got narrower and narrower. In the depths of the building, we came across an underground room. There was red grass growing from the ground and white flowers that looked like dandelions. Woof, woof. Anna plucked some of the grass. I think this is a magic herb. A magic herb is a medicinal plant. It's a very handy item that can restore your health, or restore your strength to 100% even after you've lost it all. We left the ruins and walked out into the desert past the scrap tank. Okay. We found the desert narrowing as the horizon gave way to forest, sea, and mountains on 3 sides of us. Quick save. I think forests. Yep. 2 hours later, we found ourselves walking down a narrow path through the woods. We see the little village of Youngstown in the distance, and beyond it, a hazy blue mountain range. From the depths of the forest surrounding us, we could hear the cries of unfamiliar birds and the plodding footsteps of some unknown creature as we traveled between the trees. It was a bit unsettling. As we continued on the path, suddenly the trees around us began to rustle wildly. Doug, do you feel that? Something dangerous is heading this way. I stopped in my tracks. The fur along Lloyd's back stood up straight. Ooh! We could see a pond in the woods about 14 yards ahead of us. There was a sudden splash as something leapt out of it. Probably an alligator. Yep, suddenly an alligator appears. There wasn't supposed to be any alligators in Maine. Maybe they're from the New York sewer system? That's apparently where all the alligators and crocodiles went. I was pretty sure they lived down in Florida. But as soon as we saw the nasty gleam in its alligator's eyes, we understood everything. Be careful, Anna. This guy is being controlled by aliens. Quick save. Try to fight. I know that. She braced herself for a fight. The alligator stared at us menacingly. I thought I heard a deep growl, and then it charged at us with terrifying speed. Try to run. This alligator seemed surprisingly tough. We turned tail and ran. But we were also surprised to find out how quickly the thing could crawl along the ground. And it came after us at terrifying speed. It was as fast as a motorcycle. We wouldn't be able to outrun this thing. It's no use. That thing's gonna catch up to us. Lloyd, take us back to Magicant. Woof! Suddenly, the honest hook tied around his neck started to glow all the colors of the rainbow. But the alligator leapt into the air and lunged for us. But by the time it reached where we had been standing, we had already been transported to another world, to Magicant. We had arrived in Magicant. Oh, jeez. Okay, I think I've done this. Yeah. I don't think we're strong enough yet. Oh, that wasn't there before. Oh, okay. Oh, well, okay. The dragon's next, but I think I gotta be stronger. Hey, why don't I go back? Oh, crap, I can't remember what his voice was. Laura's tears are the song of her heart. The piano's whispers ring out through the dark. A lonely cactus sings out to the stars. The soulful refrain soothes the dragon's scars. Love's ballad is found in the sorrows of Eve. Restore time lost to the queen and the darkness recedes. I've got it. Those are the hints to where the melodies are hidden. Say, mister, what do you think of Elvis Presley for a stage name? That's a bit overused, don't you think? Well then, how about Bruce Springsteen? Or maybe Mick Jagger? Eric Clapton? Michael Jackson? Van Halen? Maybe even Prince? Prince has a nice ring to it. I think I'll go with that. We left the man's house, but I couldn't help but wonder about Anna's tastes. Surprising for a girl raised in a church. Oh, we just Leroy Jenkins him. Oh, I should... Wham! Once again, we knocked the guard to the floor and stepped right over his body to continue towards the castle. Once again, he was back up at his feet almost instantly and dashed ahead of us, holding his arms out in an attempt to stop us. And then we've done this song and dance before. Wham! This time we knocked him flat on his face, and we stepped over him once more on our way through the castle and into our gate and into the castle. It's so good to see you. Wait, let me go back. We found our way into the Queen's chamber, headed inside, and there was Queen Mary sitting on her last row waiting for us as always. It's so good to see you. Her voice was as gentle as ever. I've been watching over all three of you. Come closer. The Queen gently caressed each of our heads, and she smiled. You are free to do as you wish here. You may visit any time and rest yourselves to your heart's content. The three of us were treated to a wonderful feast, and we felt completely refreshed. Well, I guess it's time to head out. What about Lloyd? Is she gonna restore Lloyd? Quick save. Anna spoke with a slight tremble. What should we do? What to do? Well, Before I could finish speaking, an alarming growl broke the silence around us. The dragon's eyelids slowly opened, its two glowing eyes fixed on us sharply. We stared at the beast in disbelief. It's awake! Lloyd tucked his tail between his legs. The dragon lifted its head on a long, curved neck, shook itself off, and slowly began to rise from the floor. It opened its mouth wide, and we could see rows of sharp teeth. The depths of its maw looked dark and like a dark and cavernous tunnel. Quick save. Have Anna do it. Wait, no. Have Anna fight the dragon, have Doug fight the dragon. I thought it was Anna and Lloyd. Let's have Anna fight the dragon. It's a long shot. Get out of my way! Anna stepped in front of me and faced the monster resolutely. Anna staring down the dragon. What should she do? PK Thunder! Anna clasped her hands together at her chest as if she were praying. Her body began to glow almost instantly. Pale blue sparks and bolts of electricity discharged in the air, and then pierced the body of the dragon as it stood several feet away. When the bright flash faded, I opened my eyes. The dragon was completely unharmed. I'm not surprised. Holy crap! Next thing I knew, the dragon slowly got to its feet and was coming my way. It opened its mouth even wider. This was the dragon we're dealing with. So that must mean fire! Blistering flames suddenly burst from the dragon's mouth. We had no time to dodge them. We didn't have enough psi power left to deflect them. As those overpowering flames engulfed us, we were instantly turned to ash, body and soul alike. I'm gonna have bright red, blazing hot flames suddenly burst from her. Those flames tore through the air and headed straight for the dragon. I'm pretty sure this is gonna work because we're dealing with a dragon. For a moment, the dragon was engulfed by Anna's attack, and I couldn't even see through the blaze. Was it defeated? No. No, it wasn't. When the flames finally vanished, the dragon still stood, and it was completely unharmed. Oh, still got 30 left. Next thing I knew, the dragon was slowly getting to its feet and coming my way. It opened its mouth even wider. Blistering flames suddenly burst from the dragon's mouth. We had Psi left! Just leave this to me. I braced myself for a fight. I concentrated all my psychic energy to hurl a Psi blast at the dragon while it was still a dozen feet away. This blast slammed into my foe while freezing all the air around it. Icy PK freeze attack, but it doesn't seem to phase the beast at all. For a moment, the dragon was engulfed in pure white mist, but a wave of intense heat suddenly burst from its body, blowing my Sub-Zero blizzard away. Wait, no. Quick load. None of these options are working. I think I gotta backtrack. I just realized I quick saved Okay. Now I'm going to do a proper save this time. Return. So we can't take the dragon on yet. Okay. So we've done the desert already. Quick save. Head for the town with a view of the sea. Maybe we're not strong enough for that thing yet? Okay. Whoops, I clicked on the wrong one. Oh well, so I lost that one. Big deal. So I doubt I'll be going back to that one. Return. So let's go to the town with a view of the sea. Two hours later, we were walking north along the unused section of the Central Main Railway. Shepherd's purse grew between the rusted tracks, and every now and then a grasshopper, startled by the sound of our footsteps, would jump into the air and take flight. Eventually, the tracks came to an end, and off in the distance, beyond a field overgrown with goldenrod, we noticed a town. That's the town of L.A. I went there once with my uncle a long time ago, and never again after that. What kind of town is it? Kind of town where there aren't many decent people. And it's the kind of place where cocaine, heroin, and hashish can be bought more easily than gum. Ah, so a town full of drugs. I could understand Anna's discomfort. But we still have to go. We never know what we might find there. As soon as I spoke, something suddenly flickered on the path up ahead of us. There was a sudden flash of bright bluish-white light that nearly blinded us. I put my hand over my eyes to shade them, and when I peeked out through the gaps between my fingers, I could see a dazzling figure that looked like it might be a person. Hey, it's a Starman! Oh, I'm not going to quick save. I'll quick save. But, Cat, are you going to be a pest? The figure was completely covered up to its head. It's something that looked like blue overalls, and only its eyes peered from beneath rectangular goggles. No matter how I looked at it, it could only be one thing. An alien! We were confronted by an alien. What should we do? Try to fight. We stared at the glowing alien, and suddenly a voice echoed through our minds. Are you not afraid of me? Are you the one pulling the strings behind the scenes? Why don't you try fighting us with your own hands? Ha ha ha. My name is Blue Starman, but I am but a lowly servant, and I don't wish to trouble my master with the likes of you. I'll destroy you myself. And suddenly the alien came straight for us, hovering in midair. I quickly pulled the laser gun from my bag. I aimed it with both hands, feeling a bit like Detective Sonny Crockett on Miami Vice. Bring it on. Was that Don Johnson? If I saw Miami Vice, it's been a very long time ago. I think I probably have. I just don't remember it. Using projectile weapons is unfair. Be quiet, alien. We don't know what you're capable of. We're at the disadvantage here. I aimed for the Blue Starman and pulled the trigger. The next thing I knew, the laser beam I had fired blasted straight through a nearby fir tree, leaving a smoking hole. I missed! In a panic, I tried to fire a second shot, but nothing happened. I looked down at the gun and noticed that the energy meter above the grip now read 0. Oh, great. It only had been good for one shot. Rather than throw the empty gun at my enemy like a cheesy movie, I tossed it aside in defeat. The Blue Starman raised its hands into the air, and the glow surrounding it suddenly grew even brighter. The three of us felt terrible pain in our heads, and we cried out in agony. The awful alien had attacked us with psychic powers of its own. We got 32 hit points left, though. I managed to get to my feet, but the alien was laughing as it swayed back and forth in midair. Me and Anna braced ourselves. The alien was getting closer. Suddenly, something silver and shiny appeared in the alien's right hand. It was a spear. The alien hurled the spear at us. It shot through the air in a perfectly straight line, and then it perfectly impaled me. I found myself in a state of shock as I admired the beautiful silvery spear that was now sticking out of my body. Then I fell face down on the ground. It was all over with me far too soon. Really? Okay, try to run. The alien glowed fiercely with bluish white light and suddenly started floating towards us. Run for it! She could say that again. I had no objections. Lloyd, move those paws! We dove into the woods without looking back at it over our shoulders while trying to avoid hitting any trees. We ran as fast as we could. We ran for 5 minutes straight, and then we stopped and leaned against a tree. Panting heavily, we finally looked behind us. We couldn't see any sign of the alien, not even that powerful glow it had been giving off. Okay, back. We walked across the field and crossed a small brook and then we entered the town. LA. A town of corruption and chaos. The buildings and roadways were filthy, and scraps of litter were tossed about in the wind. Rats gathered at trash bins and dark alleys, and pillars of steam wafted from gutter drains, carrying the stench of sewage. I've never been to the South Bronx in New York City, but I imagine it would be something like this. There were vagrants everywhere, and drug deals were being made out of junked cars. LA is Maine's personal garbage dump. That was something Padunk's mayor, Mayor Goodman, once said. It may have been a little harsh, but I couldn't say I didn't understand the sentiment. But it made me think. I thought about the fact people who lived here were still doing their best to get by. The only half-decent-looking place in town was Central's shopping center to the north. It was the only building that was neat and tidy, and really stood out from the rest of the town around it. Should wrap it up pretty soon. Where should we go? Actually, let's save. Yes. Find someone to talk to. Across the street, there was an old woman sitting in a bench on a lawn. Her clothes were old and ragged, and she was eating bread out of a paper bag. Most people use the term vagrant for someone like this woman, but we prefer the term bag lady because they're always walking around with shopping bags. As soon as she noticed me, she spoke up. You shouldn't have come to town like this, young man. This place is dangerous. It's run by hooligans, you know. It looked like the town was really just as bad as I'd heard. Shopping center first. Okay, let's go back a bit. Okay. Went over to the phone, picked up the receiver, and put it to my ear. It had been so long since I heard my Papa's voice, and I wanted to talk with him. Papa, please pick up, talk to me, just like you always do. I prayed fervently, and soon enough a familiar voice came through the receiver. Ah, Doug, how have you been? I had to stop myself from hugging the phone tight. Papa, please tell me. Tell me what's the connection between my strange powers and the aliens? Your great-grandpa had those same powers. That's why the aliens brought him with them to their planet. And when he came back to Earth, he was a true master of using psychic abilities. So the aliens kidnapped him, basically. Did you read his diary too, Papa? I did. And that's why I had to disappear, to divert their attention away from you. Your Papa left home and traveled closer to where the aliens are. That's why you've been safe up until now. Closer to the aliens are, where the aliens are. Where is that, Papa? Where are you? You'll find yourself near where Papa is very soon. But not until after you've gathered the 5 melodies your great-grandfather left behind and received the ultimate power. Goodbye for now, Doug. You know I love you, as always. My Papa's voice cut out, and I stood clinging to the receiver for what seemed like an eternity. We went up the stairs and found ourselves in an incredibly spacious sales floor. Okay, I should have read that. I'm gonna call it pretty soon, though. I'm trying to think what I need. I missed the second song? I feel like the physical capsules I'll be needing. I'm gonna hang on to everything, because Anna threw a fit because she wanted to go to the record store on the third floor to try on some clothes, but we had to leave as quickly as possible. Truth be told, though, I wanted to go to the bookstore on the fourth floor, but buy the latest of the True Detective magazine. Where should we go now? Let's try walking around town. We walked around along the streets where scrapped a litter danced in the wind until we finally found ourselves at the pier. We had completely forgotten that this town was near the sea. Come to think of it, the only time I've ever seen the sea was when my papa took me with him to Boston. I remember the rough and violent waves beating at the shores of Cape Cod beneath the heavy, cloudy sky and the little white houses called bungalows all lined in rows along the dismal beach. Papa said the beach at Cape Cod was like some sort of promised land, but I was never quite sure what he meant by that. Walk along the shore. The path along the shore seemed to go on forever. We continued to walk along the embankment until eventually we spotted a tall concrete building in the distance. A sign on the building read, LA Observation Deck. We entered the building as soon as we got to it and took the elevator to the top floor. And there, an incredible view lay out before us. We could see a tiny island way out across the ocean. We looked at the small island through the binoculars provided by the observation deck, and we could see there was a domed building right in the middle of it. Should we visit the island? Yes, let's head to the island. Head for the island. We told the caretaker of the observation deck we wanted to go to the island. He gave us a free boat ride there. Oh, that was easy. It took about half an hour to get over to the island. Once we arrived, we headed into the dome-shaped building. Even though the building didn't have a sign posted on it, I thought it might be a laboratory of some kind. Men in white coats were hurrying back and forth between all the different machines. At one point, I managed to ask one of them what was going on, and I was told there was some sort of ridiculous-sounding research involving stuffing words into cans. Yeah, this sounds familiar. I seem to remember this, and this was like a couple of useless items. This place was apparently called the Instant Voice Laboratory. As we looked around, an older man wearing an ID card displaying his photo, occupation, and name, which was Director F. Travis, came over to us from the other side of the lab. Ah, you must be the kids who are here for the tour. As he patted the head of Lloyd de St. Bernard, I noticed that there was a pink stain on the front of his white coat. That's ominous. Oh wait, I know. It's not as ominous as I thought. I thought this was going to be Dr. Demento, not Distorto. A look of embarrassment covered his face as he realized he had caught my attention. Oh, this. This is just from some strawberry tofu I was eating earlier. Truth be told, I can't get enough of this stuff. I just happened to have brought a box of strawberry tofu with me, and I handed it to Director Travis. Is this for me? When I nodded, he broke into a wide grin. Well, thank you very much. I have to admit, I have a real weakness for this stuff. He opened the lid of the box. Using a pair of chopsticks quite skillfully, he devoured the entire block, and then licked his lips in satisfaction. Man, that was good. I want to give you guys something in return, but you looked all around and noticed the steel shelf along the wall. You took two cans from it and brought them over to us. This is something I've been researching. It's vocal dialogue packed into a can. The blue one here is words of love, and the red one here is curse words. The only real value is that they're rare, but I'd like you to have them anyway. We left the laboratory and got back to the boat that was waiting for us, and returned to the harbor near the observation deck. Now, where should we go next? Alright, I said I was going to call it. Return to town. We returned to town, walked along a desolate back alley. You never know what kind of trouble we might get into wandering around places like this. Apparently, even a girl with psychic powers was afraid of dangerous neighborhoods. We continued down the alley, noticed a familiar figure walking towards us. Yep! He was wearing a shabby coat, but there was no mistaking him. It was the man from the desert who had taken us for tours on his plane. You too! His face contorted with fury as he pointed at us. How dare you destroy my tank like that? I ought to kill you! I ought to murder you! Well, that escalated quickly. The man reached into a pocket of his jacket and pulled out a large handgun. He started closing in on us. Run! We did try to run, but we hit a dead end. At the end of the alley was a steel door at the base of a concrete building. There was a sign on the door which read, Live House, Elay, or LA. We knocked frantically on the door. A man stuck his head out from inside. He had a cigarette in his mouth and a tattoo of an anchor peeking out from underneath the sleeve of his t-shirt. Oh, I'm glad I got the ticket. If you want to see a concert, you need to have a ticket. Oh, what luck. We just happened to have a set of live house tickets we bought at the shopping center on a whim. We hurriedly showed them to the man. We rushed into the building. Okay. Should I save? I'm gonna save. And then I'm gonna call it. Alright, so this is where I'm gonna leave off. I won't get back to us for a couple weeks. So... there's still a buzz going on. Whatever. Anyways. Okay, I wanted to make sure that's still there. Okay. Now for the trivia question and answer. The short but famous comedy from across the pond was inspired by events popular. I cannot talk. Popular comedy troupe encountered during a hotel stay. Well, the antics of the hotel's manager drove the four of the members to search for a different end. The last member was fascinated by the owner's rudeness, that they used it as the show's inspiration. And the answer to this question is... hopefully I'm pronouncing this right. I'm pretty sure I am, because I think that's the intended how it's supposed to be pronounced. Fawlty Towers is a British comedy that had 2 seasons. One in 1975 and the other in 1979. The series stars John Cleese as Basil, or is it Basil? I don't know. Basil Fawlty, a foul-tempered hotelier who runs the crummiest, shoddiest, worst run in the whole Western Europe. I did not grammar that well. What else is new? The series was inspired by the experience of the Monty Python comedy troupe's stay at the now demolished Glen Eagles Hotel. The hotel owner, Donald Sinclair, was described by Cleese as the most wonderfully rude man I'd ever met. Cleese used this experience as inspiration for Fawlty Towers, with Basil Fawlty being analogous. Why did I write it? Use that word? To Sinclair. Members of Sinclair's family dispute Fawlty's representation, though a number of guests have disagreed. Really don't have much to say. I have actually never seen the show. I just found it kind of interesting trivia. It wasn't just the guests. I think it was some of the former staff, and also I think even some other members of his family also said that Cleese's performance was not far off. I think I heard also it might even be being too nice, but I don't know if that's true or not. Uh, but anyways, I also know from what I not this is something I read. I don't know if how I have seen the movie. Amazingly enough, I think Cleese uh, Cleese's character in Rat Race, I think, was named Donald Sinclair as well. So I don't know if why, but just kind of a fun little bit of trivia there. What else is there I can add? Not much. Yeah. With that, as I said, I am done for the week. I'll be gone until possibly next Friday at the latest. I don't, but yeah, I think that'll be when I'll be able to stream next. Uh, and it'll be Elite Force 2. So, and I don't think I have any special streams set up for August. So, not sure if there'll be any surprise streams or not. I don't think there will be. Uh, yeah, I got nothing else really to add. Um, but yeah, when I get back, Elite Force, and then I'll be returning to Sonic Battle, uh, more Mother, uh, Invasion from the Unknown, and again, continue Elite Force 2. The next special stream, I think, will be if I get the day off, September 1st, which I'll be streaming a couple edutainment games because that's what I've been doing for back to school. And I think I'm haven't entirely figured out what I plan on doing, but I'm thinking what I'm going to do is a couple of Apogee published games. I don't know if they published them or I think someone else developed them, but some Word Rescue and I think Math Rescue. A couple of old MS-DOS games. So, uh, not sure what else I plan on doing. The next one after that, I believe, is the 8th, which will be uh, Star Trek Day, which will be, unless I beat it before then, which I doubt, it'll be Star Trek 25th Anniversary, which I'll actually start on September 2nd. But the Star Trek Day stream will be 4 hours at least. And I'll be honest, I have not played much of any of the. Oh, this is the MS-DOS Enhanced Edition. I have not played much of any of This one. I do have owned it for years, but I never really like I played a bit of it and got totally lost cuz I think in an attempt for anti-piracy, they decided to have it so you had to resort to using a manual to see what sector was what. So I got my ass handed to me fairly quickly. But yeah, I'll be doing that. I'll probably want to have the map open in another window so I know what I'm doing. I think thankfully I think the manual was a free download with the game. So I think Judgment Rights did the same thing. But yeah, I think yeah, been yakking long enough. With that said, this has been your captain speaking. You're now free to disembark.